Hey, welcome back to episode 4 of me just blathering on over here. I'm really excited to share another concrete change that I made during that time when my anxiety first started to ease up. And just to very quickly recap, the reason I'm out here making a fool of myself on YouTube is because I accidentally cured my anxiety, and I think you can too. I sat down to write an outline about radical honesty and just kind of plan out what I wanted to say for this episode. And it wasn't long before I realized it's only one side of the coin. Because yes, realism is powerful. It can change everything. But alone, it will hold you back. And that's where the flip side comes in, something I like to call soft delusion. And to be clear, I don't mean delusion in the diagnostic sense. I'm not talking about actually losing touch with reality, and it's not lying to yourself either. Soft delusion is a conscious choice to suspend your disbelief so that you can hold space for possibilities that are bigger than what might appear probable on paper. It's choosing to lean into best case scenarios even when the odds aren't technically in your favor. Radical honesty, the way I learned it, is not about being harsh with other people. It's about being brutally honest with yourself. Drop the sugarcoating, drop the denial, drop the little bargains we make to stay comfortable. It's the clarity of saying, this is what's really happening right now. And that's crucial information for moving through the world. Because to make decisions based on sugar-coated lies that you've been telling yourself, that's way more dangerous than a little soft delusion. So one of the first times that I got radically honest with myself after I learned about this concept was in my marriage. After years of no progress, I had to admit it, my husband wasn't going to change. By all appearances, he was putting zero effort into treating me better. That was the truth, whether I wanted it to be or not. And I had to follow the logical conclusion of that truth. If I want to be with this man, I have to accept this shitty life. That was the deal on the table. It didn't matter how badly I wanted it to be a different deal. It didn't matter how much I loved him or how much I wanted our marriage to be a happy one. It wasn't. That was the reality that I had to face. Because you can't face a problem head on if you never face it at all. I could have spent 50 more years begging him to change, waiting for him to treat me better, and just letting myself be abused in the meantime. And if I hadn't gotten real with myself, I probably would have. It was painful, but it was also liberating. Radical honesty stripped away the fog and allowed me to act from a place of clarity instead of wishful thinking. However, I don't spend very much time considering worst case scenarios, which is hilarious because it basically used to be my favorite pastime. And if I ever do, it's if a fear pops up, because I'm not immune to fears just because I don't have anxiety anymore. If a fear pops up, I'll ask myself, what is actually the worst case scenario here? And usually it's not actually that bad. And once I realize that, it's pretty easy to pivot back to imagining the best case scenario. Because what's the actual harm in focusing on the best possible outcomes? I think if you're radically honest with yourself, you'll probably come to the conclusion that the only real reason that you avoid best case thinking is because you don't want to look like a fool or you don't want to be disappointed if you're wrong. Because if you assume the worst and something good happens to you, people will call you a lucky realist. But if you assume the best and something bad happens, now you're a fucking idiot and you should have known better. But here's the thing, in both cases, you're equally wrong. So why not lean into the version that makes life a little bigger? Why not focus on the version that makes you feel better until you know how this really turns out? Like when I was starting my business, do you think I spent all this time going through the statistics of small businesses and whether or not I would succeed? No. Most small businesses fail, that's the reality. But if everybody just focused on the statistics, nobody would ever start a business. Society literally depends on a certain amount of delusion, on people being brave enough to try anyway. That's where breakthroughs come from. Believing in something improbable long enough to make it possible. And at the same time, I do lean into statistics when it comes to my fears. Like for instance, when my husband had first moved out, one of my big fears was that someone was going to break into my house. And I would just lay in bed at night just worrying about that actively. So I built myself a pretty solid standard replacement thought. I'm guessing it's the lawyer in me, but I basically started arguing with my anxiety. I would say to myself, it's understandable that you're scared, but also consider the actual likelihood that you will ever in your lifetime have your home broken into. It's very low. And even more to the point, the likelihood that it's going to happen tonight, practically nil. So it's like you're walking around actively afraid that you're going to be struck by lightning. Well, now I feel silly. So it's a little easier to switch gears and think about something else or, try to fall asleep. Radical honesty keeps me rooted in where I am. Soft delusion lets me imagine where I could be next year. Radical honesty keeps me from lying to myself about the present and the past. Soft delusion keeps me from shrinking my future down to something safe and small. One without the other is dangerous, but together they protect each other. They're not ops, they're buds, but only if you keep them in their respective lanes. Radical honesty about the future breeds fear and hesitation. You get so clear on reality and probabilities that you scare yourself straight into a functional freeze response. But delusion about the past or the present is just reckless. That's when you find yourself ignoring the obvious red flags and just forging ahead with your eyes closed. So the rule of thumb is this: radical honesty belongs in the present tense and the past tense. Soft delusion belongs in the future tense. And never the twain shall cross, or whatever the Barbie movie said. Because the only thing realism about the future ever really did for me was keep me from looking stupid. But fuck it. Clearly I've made peace with looking stupid if I'm out here doing this on YouTube. If you lean into it, radical honesty will ground you. Soft delusion will lift you up. And together they will help you create a life that is both true and worth stepping into. 10 out of 10, I highly recommend. If you're trying to put this stuff into practice, please let me know. I would love to hear it. It's not an easy thing you're trying to do, and I would be so happy to be your cheerleader while you try and figure it out. Just don't forget radical honesty about what's here, soft delusion about what's coming. Okay, thanks, bye.